And we're live. Welcome back to the show, guys. It's been a little minute. I wanted to apologize for not having an episode out last weekend. I had a couple of things going on here, and you know how it is. Just time got away from me, and I did not record. And I figured, why rush one in the middle of the week when you guys have work, stuff's going on, and just wait till the next week and make a really, really great episode. So that's what we're going to do today. Man, right before I hit record, I was watching nonstop classic Top Gear moments. It's actually on the Top Gear Classic YouTube channel. They're running it like literally just every day, live streaming past Top Gear clips. And it is so refreshing to watch those old trips that they did, like, to Africa and to Spain and the Amazon. I mean, they did some really, really cool stuff, and it had me thinking, like, why not do that type of programming again? It doesn't have to be network TV. You can do it on YouTube, where on a smaller scale, you're just combining sort of, geographical places with cool things like, you could go to the National Guard, for example, and say, hey, would you guys be able to, stage a couple of your Humvees in a way where we could, shoot around them and make a cool video about, heavy military vehicles or something like that. Or you could go to the zoo and, see if the zoo would let you use some of their sort of like cool, like safari Jeep looking things. I don't know, like, I mean, just get creative, So that's what I was thinking about right before I hit record. The episode I was watching, they were like in tanks with bulldozers, and then they took a one of those like Bobcat things, I guess, like like for construction sites, a little Bobcat with the pusher on the front, but then they put these metal spikes into the bucket. It's like a demolition vehicle kind of. I was just like, dude, that is sick. What if you had like three of those and you painted them all black, and then you like, put your favorite team number or something like that, and then you raced them, or you had obstacles for them to destroy. Like, here's a good one. You have three of those things with the motorized sort of shredders mounted in the buckets. Three of them, you're racing them down a course, and then in that course you've got like these straw houses made out of, just fake houses basically, and junk cars, hay bales, stuff like that. And the objective of the show is just to go through all of your demolition stuff and make it to the end. Got GoPros on them, 3 to 4 handheld cameras. Everybody's mic'd up inside the cockpits. That would be so freaking cool. So yeah, that would be pretty awesome. But really, today's episode is going to be about a couple different things. The first is what's on a lot of people's minds right now, and that's the tariffs. The tariffs and the trade talks is really what people are pretty interested in. There's a lot going on with with the tariff stuff. President Trump is reviewing the tariffs of up to 25%, maybe even more on certain categories. But the tension with China is kind of different anyway. So tariffing the Chinese, they tariff the crap out of us, and these are all reciprocal tariffs. So this isn't really looking at it from a political lens, because from a political lens, it makes sense. We've been getting ripped off for far too long. Every country, and people here, I realized, didn't know that. I've got friends in England, so we talk cars all the time. You're not going to find a Corvette or a Dodge Challenger or a Mustang driving around on their streets. Here, they are everywhere. They are $25,000 to $35,000 cars that you could just go and buy at the dealership. But to get one of our cars built by our boys and girls in factories here in the United States to sell over there, it's about a 40 to 50% tax. So if the car is like $45,000, it's very quickly approaching that $80,000 mark. It makes it not worth it. So no one over there drives our cars. That's a tariff. So what we're doing is simply evening the playing field a little bit to make because here's the thing. How did we get into a $36 million or $36 trillion deficit like that, where we're just underwater as a country, it's because of getting taken advantage of, unfortunately. So I actually kind of like it, but here's what we're going to talk about is not that. We're going to talk about how that affects cars. We know that Europe does not take our cars. We take all of theirs. So this tariff is to incentivize those other nations to build here. It's not necessarily to affect the price of the prices of the vehicles. That's going to happen by itself. The new cars will inevitably cost a lot more coming overseas from over there. That's just a cold hard fact. But you don't have to drive those cars. You can drive really, really nice American cars, which you should. Europeans drive European cars. Germany, they're all driving Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs because they're built there. We simply sit online on social media and we look at European stuff and we want their stuff. What there's as an American, quite frankly, even though I'm an immigrant, I love American cars. I think they're built well, and they're built by the people that live here. Like I know, we all actually probably know people who work at automotive manufacturing plants. We're a Ford family personally here. Members of my family work at Ford, building hundreds of thousands of vehicles every year, and we're proud of that. And they're great cars, and they're great cars. They look cool. But if you want European, that's totally fine. You can buy them. It just might cost a little bit more. And let me put it in a different way so that it doesn't sound like a one-sided argument. Let's say you live in Europe. I can give you guys an example. One of my best friends, he lives in the UK. When he came to visit, we rented a Corvette because it was one of his dreams to drive a Corvette. When you live in the UK, you don't get to just go and find yourself a C6, C06 like we can here for $35,000. It's just not going to happen. Those cars over there are incredibly expensive, and it's not fair to them either. So what I'm trying to say is, and the point I'm trying to make is that it's a two-way street, and for those guys to have our cars, they have to pay a stupid amount of money, which is why they drive European cars. Same thing here. Yeah, we can get access to European cars moving forward after these tariffs, but it's going to cost a little bit more. But because it's going to cost a little bit more, that is a sign that they are working. That is a sign that we are not getting taken advantage of as much. We can start investing into our own future here in the States, building better American cars because of the savings on that front. I think it's fantastic for American manufacturers like Ford, GM, and then, of course, you've got Toyota building cars here. You have Honda coming over here. You have Hyundai starting to build steel factories here so that we can then take all of that raw steel and aluminum and turn it into cars here. This is a long strategy, and people are starting to complain about a month to 2 months worth of news. Guys, you have to realize this is going to be 5 to 10, 15 years worth of work. We're trying to bring manufacturing back to the States. We've lost that as a automotive manufacturing powerhouse. Detroit used to be booming. Michigan was booming. We've been building cars in the United States since Jesus was a baby. But in the interest of saving a dollar here and there, we completely gave all of our automotive manufacturing to the world. A lot of vehicles are made in Mexico now, where they have slightly worse production standards, slightly worse quality checks. Those vehicles oftentimes come with recalls. They come with a lot of issues. They come with safety concerns from the factory. You don't want that. And why? Just to save a few $1,000s? It's still going to be expensive by the time it gets here. So why not just make it here? Why not make it in North Carolina? Why not make it in Georgia? Why not make it in Kentucky or Indiana? Why not make it in Texas? You can make all of these amazing automobiles here. The quality will be better, and they'll be built by hardworking Americans. So ultimately, I stand in a very comfortable position with these tariffs. Unfortunately for my customers and for clients in the automotive space who are looking to buy and sell, it is going to make some complicated things come up, particularly with higher prices on like imported EVs, stuff like, just cars coming from overseas for sure will be hit. That 25%, it's kind of ugly. A $60,000 car instantly becomes an $80,000 car plus. I also think that it's going to have a trickle-down effect into the actual materials. Sorry, I'm adjusting the mic volume. The material costs, or I'm sorry, the cost of the materials to build these cars is the materials themselves also have to be imported before they are, or I'm sorry, after they're sourced, before they're imported to manufacture the vehicles, or if that price is, if the cost is hit early on, it's still going to trickle down to the consumer regardless. The consumer is always going to be the last person in line, and we're going to have to eat the bulk of that. So, what can you do? If this is inevitable, or if the chances are high, which right now, by the way, guys, if you guys are interested, the chances of these tariffs affecting market values on used vehicles from other countries, it's about 30% over the next 6 to 12 months. That's the going statistic. And so it's based off of just analytical data of buying strategies and buying performance in the United States on used vehicles 2017 plus or newer, 2017 and newer. So it's about a 30% chance that the values will be affected over the next 6 to 12 months. It's a decent risk that you're taking. That's a decent risk. That means that there's only a 70% chance that you're going to get a good deal moving forward into 2026. And it requires a very specific strategy. You have to know the ins and outs of that car relative to the market and where it's coming from, because if you have to service a particular type of vehicle, are the parts on that vehicle going to be so expensive that it no longer makes sense to own the car to begin with, just as an example. And so it's going to be very, very important moving forward to identify those risks, any potential drawbacks, and make a pretty reasonably safe purchasing strategy or selling strategy. That's a hot take. Will tariffs create stronger American auto scene, or is it just going to make a more expensive one? Is anybody's guess. And are we protecting jobs? Are we padding prices? What are we doing? So if you haven't already, make sure you talk to an automotive consultant. We do in-house automotive consulting here at Auto Talks US. The sponsor of the show is IAP Consulting Solutions. That's the consulting element of the show. We have clients basically asking us regularly, what's going to happen next? What are you seeing on the market? And there's data to support a lot of the answers that we have and that we come up with. It's a completely case-by-case situation. And if you've got a car coming from Germany versus a car coming from the UK versus a car coming from China, it's going to make things very, very interesting and a little bit more complicated, but you're not alone, and we're here to help you. So at the link, there's a link in the description for IAP Consulting Solutions. You're welcome to reach out with any questions. We're more than happy to help because this is going to be a tough time, but we'll get through it. We always do. So the speculation zone can be pretty easily navigated. I think the losers in this thing are going to be luxury European brands. So we're not going to name all of them, but there's definitely going to be some losers there. The emerging, EV market from China, like BID and NIO and all these kind of little weird companies that are, making cheap EV cars. I'm sorry, but you guys are going to be kind of screwed because you're not really going to be able to sell anywhere. If they don't sell directly to the United States, because we don't have those cars like BID or BYD, whatever you want to call it, they're selling them to someone, right? And the people buying them are going to get hit pretty hard with these tariffs, so they're not going to afford them either, which means they're probably not going to make it. That's a good thing for us. Even though I'm not an EV guy, I want American EV companies to succeed. So who's going to be the winners if these are the brands that are going to be the losers? Well, like we said before, the winners of this thing are going to be domestic manufacturers, Ford, GM, Tesla, things like that. These are going to be the winners because it's going to be putting food on American tables. Americans are going to have more jobs. I can't stress enough the influx of cash pouring into America right now because of these tariffs is massive. Apple, $500 billion. Hyundai, $7 or $8 billion for steel manufacturing and aluminum manufacturing facilities here in the States to make metal. You need metal to make cars. We're not going to be buying it from overseas no more. We're going to be making it here. So all I hear in the back of my head when I read what these tariffs are doing, all I can think of is just jobs, 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 jobs. That is fantastic. American cars being built in America the better way. That's amazing. I as far as I'm concerned, I don't live in Europe. I live here. So if my, neighbor's got a job, if his son can go, be an engineer for Ford or something like that, how's that not a win-win? So let's wrap up the tariff thing on that note. I think it's too early to tell. Yes, the prices are going to be a little bit higher, as is everything. That's just a world that we live in. You have to be a little bit smarter with your money. You have to actually use a little bit of strategic thinking now, and not just kind of throwing cash at the thing that looks shiniest. Because let's be real, a lot of people did get themselves in a situation financially where they just can't afford the cars they buy because they didn't do it the right way. They had no strategy. They had no consulting ahead. They literally just went into the dealership and did what the person at the other end of the table, who's an expert at it, told them to do. So you can't really blame politics or Donald Trump or high prices for not being able to afford your car. You probably purchased something in a way that wasn't, successful for you. And that happens to like 79% of Americans year over year, purchasing cars with no strategy. Can't stress it enough. Anyway, 2025 Formula One season. That's been another big fun thing on my mind. Pretty much since China last weekend, we had a really kind of cool little finish with the McLarens. I had a feeling that we were going to see something like that. They're just on fire, plain and simple. McLaren is at the top. There's no stopping them. They secured both podiums. They have really strong qualifying pace. The MCL 38 is definitely a championship contender. And so we have to basically talk about who's coming back. Is it going to be a Ferrari sort of second in the constructor spot, or is it going to be Red Bull in the second constructor spot? What we have right now with Red Bull is fascinating. For the first two races, they put somebody into the seat who could not bring a result to save their life. Liam Lawson, he's got to go. He's been replaced by Yuki Tsunoda for Japan this upcoming race. And I'm personally excited for that because Yuki is from Japan. He gets to race his first race for Red Bull in a Red Bull at Japan. It's going to be fantastic. I pray that there's no rain. Japan almost always gives us a rain race. Hopefully this time of year it's not so bad and we can get some really good racing at the only figure of 8 track on the calendar. So out of the 20 plus races we've got this year, this is the only one that has a figure of 8 style, and it's just absolutely one of my favorite tracks. I know for sure when I get off this episode, I'm going to go into my, I'm going to go hop in my racing simulator and race at Japan for a few hours because this track just gets me hyped. It gets me hyped like there's no other way. And with McLaren on top, there's a lot of stuff to celebrate. The Mercedes, I don't know what exactly is going on with the Mercedes. Kind of weird. Let's see. I actually don't remember how the Mercedes did. I think one of them didn't George Russell get... Let me look this up really quick. I don't remember what... Sorry guys, I'm typing. I just needed to see so I don't go crazy. Off the top of my head, I have horrible memory. This all goes back to a car accident in 2027 or 2017. My memory used to be amazing, but now I just fundamentally forget stuff that happened, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. Small details here and there. But yeah, look at that. George Russell finished third. I remember that it was Kimi Antonelli didn't have a horrible race, but George came through as team leader, and we talked about this several weeks ago. We specifically talked about how George was going to come through as the number one driver at Mercedes to really just be there for Kimi. Kimi finished second. That's 22 points on the board already for the season. He is not only a rookie, but the kid's like 18 years old, man. He's a kid. And so George is now, despite being very young, younger than me, which I mean, I used to watch Formula One and I go, dude, when I grow up, I want to be these guys. I'm like towards the top of the age group there. It's just very bizarre to think that these are all kids earning millions and doing this cool thing, but that's besides the point. I'm very jealous. I'm happy and I'm jealous. So Kimi's got this sort of older brother figure in George Russell. I think Mercedes is going to be very, very dominant this year. I don't actually suspect we're going to see something like what's his name? We're not going to see that kind of rivalry, I don't think, with Kimi and with George. I think Toto has made it very clear to Kimi that George this season is going to be the number one driver, and then he's going to let Kimi prove himself, maybe by racing others. I think team rules applies very, very strictly at Mercedes for this season, because he needs to, as a boss, I guess, see, can George be number one, and so he's got to let George make number one decisions. So more freedom to George this year, but also, Kimi, you need to prove yourself, so fight literally everybody except for George unless we tell you to, and then team rules applies, and we make a swap if we need to for a particular race, probably until about Coda or Mexico, and then in which case the championship battle becomes so spicy where if an ultimate decision has to be made between the two Mercedes, I'm assuming they will then go by points, not by rank. Don't know why we had to do that analysis. It was just going through my head, so we did. As it stands, McLaren 78 points, Mercedes 57 points, Red Bull Racing 36 points, Williams 17 points, and Ferrari 17 points. Those are your top 5 constructors. This is also, might I point out, one of the first times in a long time where Williams is higher than Ferrari. The reason that Williams, I think, is ahead of Ferrari with both of them having 17 is just who got that order pecked. That's insane, guys. We haven't seen a constructor standing like this after 2 races in a while. This is almost giving me kind of 2012 vibes a little bit. 2012 was the most iconic Formula One season I've ever been alive to experience. You had 6 different winners in the first 6 races. I think you had 7 world champions racing at any given time. It was the best season in Formula One to my knowledge, and it was just so good. The Lotus was incredible. The Ferrari had a win at Spain with Fernando winning at home. For Sebastian Vettel won the title. I mean, just it was crazy. By the way, Lewis at Ferrari, he's transitioning well. He won the sprint race, which is crazy. So that was his first sort of, quote, win for Ferrari, even though it wasn't like a massive win for a Grand Prix. It was a Grand Prix sprint race, and what those are, for those of you that don't know, the sprint race happens on select race weekends on a Saturday. So you've still got the main event on Sunday with its own qualifying. However, the sprint is a miniature race. It's 17 laps. It's usually on one set of tires. You don't see a lot of pit stops. You might see one pit stop where they'll start on the soft and maybe swap over to a medium if that's the call or if weather comes through. But generally, one set of tires, 17 laps, and it's a shootout where they on Saturday. So with Friday's really important. You only get one practice session. The technical difficulty, this is the only thing that sucks, and I got a notification about it on my phone a few days ago where they were, I guess, deliberating, and then it was a late notification too because this had already happened. But I got the Ferraris were disqualified due to having I guess they were too light or something like that. But the technical infringement was kind of weird. That the Ferraris were both disqualified from the Grand Prix after the fact. Now, if you didn't watch the race, I'm not going to spoil it for you because you can always go back on F1 TV Pro. You can sign in, you can sign up for the membership, and then you can watch every single race in the archives, the full races as well as highlights going back well into the 90s. So you can really relive pretty much 30 plus years worth of Formula One history right there on your phone or on your laptop, which is really cool. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but there is a reason why Charles's Ferrari may have come in slightly underweight. So I'll have to go and read about this a little bit. I think Oscar Piastri winning the race really sort of underscores his potential here. This guy's going to be a world champion someday. Make no mistake. You'll have to maybe leave a comment what you guys think about the McLaren boys. Is Zach going to allow a Piastri versus Lando situation, or are these two going to let themselves decide amongst themselves who's going to take it? Because it's going to be a spicy season. Make no mistake, it's going to be a spicy season for the McLarens. They're both good in challenging conditions. I think after Russia quite a few years ago in the rain for Lando, having botched that win, I think he got his stuff together. I think he definitely got his stuff together, and I think he's making some positive moves now over there in the papaya orange McLaren number 4 car. But Oscar, man, he is brilliant. And it had me thinking about Oscar, actually, with how good he is at McLaren. Do you guys remember when he almost went to Alpine? When they made that public announcement and he's like, no, sorry, not doing that. And then he went to McLaren, which was a failing team at the time. They weren't doing well. They were certainly not getting podiums. He must have saw something in that team, and he decided to go for it, and it was the best decision he could have ever made, because he's now he's a contender. Make no mistake, he's a contender. It's too early to tell if he will be, but he's a contender, and that's all he has to be. His skill and his perseverance and talent will do the rest. He's definitely qualified to win the championship this year, just like Lando, for what it's worth. Big news, of course. Red Bull has decided to replace Liam Lawson mid-season this week with Yuki Tsunoda. I always liked Yuki. When he first started, he was a complete and total hot shoe, screaming and cursing at everyone. And it's kind of funny, like, you know how they got the new regulations that the curse words cost thousands now, and you can't raise your voice, and you can't so much as sniff in the wrong direction without getting fined. It's a complete joke. The FIA's lost their minds, and it's never going to stick. I think it's going to come to a head very soon. I mean, the FIA is like Mohammed bin Sulayem and all those guys. They are ruining so many years worth of just unbelievable athletic hype, so to speak. But anyway, we're not talking about that. He used to be incredibly hot-headed, and he would just rain fire on the radio. Today, that would cost him millions in fines. But I'm excited to see him go to Red Bull. I'm extremely excited, actually, because I think that a car with a pointy front end can kind of work for Yuki. He's through the nature of the AlphaTauri program and now the Racing Bulls program. Kid knows how to drive, all right? And if you give him that Red Bull spot, as everyone has said, it's sort of that Red Bull spot kind of makes or breaks people, and that's sort of a career killer. I think this is going to be the 4th or 5th driver to try racing against Max Verstappen. So yes, it's a career killer, but like, imagine if he's good. They get along. They get along great. They came up in the same program. They get along fantastic. So if this works out, not only are they taking Liam out of a stressful situation, and they're actually giving him a chance by doing this. A lot of people don't consider that this isn't a bad thing for Liam. Yes, he's losing the driving seat at Red Bull, which is a top tier team, but that's not. He's not being fired. He's just being demoted and moved. I wouldn't say laterally. It's not a lateral move. It's a sister company. It's not a spec identical company, or I'm sorry, team. They are a sister team to Red Bull, the Racing Bulls. So it's a kind of a lateral move over, but at least they're giving him a shot there, and it's going to be a little bit less stressful because he's not going to be fighting at the front per se. If he wants to, and if he can wrangle the performance that Red Bull saw in him to begin with, he should be just fine. Also, here's another thing. He's won at Japan before in Super Formula, I believe. When was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? And Super Formula, for those of you that don't know, I apologize for the tangents. I will come back to the race, the Formula One prediction discussion itself. But for those of you that don't know, Super Formula is an open wheel racing series similar to Formula One, but a little bit slower, about 8 to 9 seconds on average per lap slower. And it's really, really cool. It only races in Japan. It used to be called... What did it used to be called? It was something... Oh, Formula Nippon. Super Formula... Old name. Nippon. Yeah, Nippon. It was called Japanese Championship Formula Nippon. And it was so cool. It was so cool. These cars look awesome. They're fast. The wings are really big. I watch Super Formula. I'm genuinely into it. It only races in Japan, so they go to like Motegi. They go to what's it called? Suzuka. Like all these really, really cool tracks in Japan. And you'll have occasionally F2 drivers, past DTM drivers, GT3 drivers, Formula One drivers, and a lot of Japanese drivers competing in it. And so Liam Lawson, I believe, won that race for the Red Bull Super Formula team. So he's not a rookie to the track. He knows this track really, really, really well, and he knows how to go around it fast. I think the pressure of that Red Bull and the Red Bull car being designed so specifically to give championships to people like Max might have something to do with the reason why he wasn't nearly as competitive in that car. That can all change. That can all change on a dime with this move over to the Racing Bulls. I think the stress is going to be lower, but the car itself is built by different people. It might handle in a way that he actually likes, and in which case the result is what matters. Coming in, the place you finish is what matters. So if Liam in a Red Bull finishes 20th versus Liam in a Racing Bull finishing 9th, that's a big upgrade. It's an upgrade to him. It makes him look good. It shows that he can fight towards the top. It was just the car. And it will also support the theory that the previous drivers before him who also tried to fight against Max could not keep up because the car was developed in such a way to make Max as competitive as possible. Even if the small tweaks to the suspension and the brakes here and there, but make the second driver, able to drive the car, the confidence level has to be there too, and the confidence level matches the engineering of the vehicle, which is again Max's layout. It's for him. The second car, if it's using identical parts, has that theory in mind, and it's going to be up to the driver to wrangle the performance out of it. Sure, they can make small adjustments to the camber, they can make small adjustments to the clutch, position, and to the pedal position, and the way the rear diff talks to the car, the way the front diff works, and all these different things, and not the front diff, but the front suspension and stuff like that, and the rear diff, and all these, dynamic kind of things. It's you can move that, so to speak, and adjust those things. But if the geometry of the car itself is built around one particular person and that particular person's driving style is different from yours, you're just not going to get it. So this will kind of be a litmus test to see how that theory plays out. I suspect personally that Liam will, he may do a little bit better. We're not going to see him winning races in the Racing Bull, that's for sure. Whereas Yuki, I'm encouraged by this move because I think that Yuki can wrangle the performance out of that Red Bull. Something about the driving style that Max has, I don't know why Yuki he can work the front end of that car. I think if a car has a pointy nose and a loose rear end, he might be able to get a grasp at that thing, and we know he can move fast. We know Yuki's a really fast driver, so it's not like he's got a fear of the speed. It's more so the confidence in the machinery. And if he's able to do it with a Racing Bull, he could probably do it with a Red Bull too. I'm encouraged and excited about this move for Yuki. So that'll be incredibly exciting just to witness that sort of change in performance and things like that. So the F1 season has definitely been shaping up the way that I was hoping it would, which is just very exciting. Lots of different people, in different places, winning, losing. There's so much stuff going on. I personally do think that this rule stuff with the cursing and all that is going to backfire in a major way against the FIA. You just can't do that. These guys are under pressure, basically doing something that is life threatening, and when you're a couple millimeters away from somebody and they fly past you and nearly end your life, yeah, you're allowed to shout, beep, 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 a couple of crazy things. You're just allowed to. That's just humanity and limiting that. And it makes it so much more interesting when we're sitting here stuffing our faces with cheeseburgers and drinking beers and watching these races, and we see that stuff. It makes it exciting. And you're trying to turn it into what? So to those out there at the FIA, don't mess with don't be messing with stuff that don't need messing. All right, you don't go ninjaing nobody that don't need ninjaing. All right, don't ninja chop your way into nonsense. It's just don't do it. The situation over at Alpine, by the way, is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's 100% stable. Jack Doohan, he is a full contract driver, but there's a chance that he might be replaced by Franco Colapinto. As we all remember, Franco was fantastic. He's a wonderful kid. When he was with Williams, that little bit, I like him. So Alpine may bring him in. They might not. It's too early to see. But at the moment, we've got Max and Yuki tearing it up at Red Bull, hopefully this year. Charles, he's going to stay with Ferrari well beyond 2025. We know that for sure. Lewis, multi-year deal that he signed, so I think we're going to see Charles and Lewis develop a relationship that's probably going to be pretty somewhat, I hope, rivalrous, if that's a word, on track, while simultaneously being cordial off track. Yeah, for the cinema of the Brad Pitt movie coming out this summer, which, by the way, guys, let's talk about that for a second. We have the first sort of action-based Formula One movie on the big screen coming out this summer. It's called F1. It's being directed by the guy from Top Gear 2. Jerry Bruckheimer's involved. You've got Brad Pitt in the lead role, basically, playing a washed-up driver who's getting asked to race in Formula One against a young hot shoe. I don't know who they're going to make the rival yet, but you're going to have on-track action from real races. We saw them filming this thing the last 2-3 years at races that we went to. You could actually see the movie trucks, and you could see the cars going around the track with the cameras and stuff. And these are Formula 2 cars dressed up in Formula 1 bodywork, but the steering wheel is still out of a Formula 2 car, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see if they fix that or if they just leave it the way it is, because those of us that watch Formula 1, we know what every team's steering wheel looks like, and we also know what a Formula 2 steering wheel looks like. And in the trailer is out. I'll put a link in the show notes. In the trailer, you do see a Formula 2 steering wheel, so it's kind of odd for a Brad Pitt movie. But such is life, and that's not necessarily what it's about. If anything, that's just more of our addiction to the sport really coming out. But it's a Warner Brothers movie. The official trailer's got 17 million views, and it is just insane. It's starring Brad Pitt, like I said, in the main role, but the characters are Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce. They're these two drivers that are going to be racing for a fictitious Formula One team called Apex GP. And you know what's funny about that? About 5 years ago, when I first started sim racing, I made a fake team in Formula One on the career mode. You can make a team. It was called Apex GP. I still have it saved. So that was really funny. It's a very kind of stereotypical sort of racing term, Apex. Apex GP. I remember when I was going through company names to start like a sort of like an automotive media kind of deal. Apex Group came up as a name, and it was going to be like our production team, the media team, the editing team. We were going to publish car news, and it was going to be called the Apex Group. So, yeah, pretty cool. The movie F1, Official trailer will be in the notes. That's pretty much all I have. I'm so excited for this that I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, I am incredibly excited for this movie. Probably watch it 100 times if it's as good as I think it's going to be. The thing is like the people that made Top Gun, the new Top Gun Maverick, they're shooting this Formula One movie with a similar style. So multi-camera in-vehicle shots with the heroes doing the driving. That's what we want to see. But then you've got Javier Bardem in roles, and a lot of other really exceptional actors are going to be in this thing. It's going to have off-track action, a lot of drama and intense moments, and I just simply can't wait. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, the show is sponsored by IEP Consulting Solutions. We know these tariffs are coming. We know there's nothing we can do to avoid them, but that doesn't mean that you have to go broke buying or selling your next car. We're here to help. We know how to go around this stuff to where it won't matter as much. It won't hurt as much. Let us help you out. Feel free to tap in on the link in the description to iepconsultingsolutions.com. We'll be happy to talk to you. We'll be happy to take care of you. With that being said, everybody, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope you enjoy the Japanese Grand Prix. It's going to be absolutely insane to see Yuki in a Red Bull fighting at the top, hopefully. Hopefully it will be a nice, clean race. Everyone comes home happy. And, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, probably go and race some laps on the simulator. Talk to you guys next week.